Hey, Jake and Bobby here from the B&H Film Crew. We just shot a short film with the Nikon Z6 and the Atomos Ninja V, and we're here to talk about it. Now, we have shot with this camera before. Actually, around this time last year, we shot with the Nikon Z6 of me ice skating around Bryant Park, and we were very impressed with the high ISO performance, clean images.
I was very impressed.
Yeah, you're pretty much blown away. So impressed, in fact, that I think you actually bought it.
Yeah, I did.
So you own one now?
Yes, I do.
Well, this time around, we wanted to pair it up with the Atomos Ninja V, which is actually coming in a kit now that we sell on our website at a pretty attractive price point. And with that, you can output N-Log, 10-bit 422 4K over HDMI, and we wanted to put it to the test. So we wrote a scene, got a permit, Bobby got his 2005 Mustang, I put on a tie, and we waited for nightfall.
The goal was to test out the new N-Log, because internally you can't shoot N-Log. You have to output to the Ninja V. So the goal was to test out the dynamic range, the color depth, so you get the 10-bit color on the 4K out to the recorder, 422. And then we chose a low light situation to see how far we could really push the camera and get clean images at night.
Yes, the scene is myself and Matt are on a stakeout, and Matt is very hangry.
A little hangry.
And I'm trying to stay focused.
And hilarity ensues, of course.
You chose one single base ISO and you shot that. What was
that? So it's. I think it's always good practice to pick an ISO and stick with it across the board on a shoot. That way you're not adding things or subtracting things from like your dynamic range or adding noise to certain shots where you could do other things like change your aperture, add more light, decrease light, you know. So I feel like you should always stick with the base ISO. I went with 1600 and I feel like I could have gone much higher, but I stuck with 1600 because the ambient light and the environmental light around the car, there was like, you know, you had some building lights, some street lights, and just ambient city lights. I didn't want that to be too bright. I wanted it to feel like a dark environment.
Yeah, the worst thing you want on a stakeout is people knowing you're on a stakeout.
Right, if it's too bright.
They should be in a dark place.
So I kind of knew where I wanted to hover aperture-wise throughout the shoot, which was like a 4 to 5, 6. I didn't want it to be super shallow because we used some primes and a couple of the Z zooms, but I didn't want to be shooting at like a 1.8 because then I would have been focus chasing on every shot. So I wanted a little more depth. So to get that, you know, I'd have to come up higher on my ISO, but I didn't want to go too high, so I picked an ISO I wanted to match my aperture, and then I just added the appropriate amount of light to get the shot I wanted. The BTS footage that Doug was shooting, you know, it has a much different look and feel because he was shooting at a much higher ISO, somewhere between like 3200, 6400, so he could see more of the environment, so he could see everything.
Yeah, well, we want to be able to see what you're doing, where
exactly. So you know, it just depends on the situation. So you could see how the BTS has one look, and then the final, the cinematic feel of the car scene.
You didn't rig this camera out.
No, and that was another thing because the camera's so small, and we didn't want to build a huge, crazy rig for this. We wanted to showcase the camera and the recorder, and that's literally all we used. There's shots from in the back of the car where I'm shooting cramped. You know, it's a two-door Mustang, so there's not a lot of room back there.
Not a lot of room. So, I'm sad that. Just ask Dave. Dave was asked our sound guy. He had to squeeze back there.
I'm comfy back there.
Yeah, but my leg's asleep. The right one.
Oof.
Yeah, so I'm sitting in the back, and I, you know, was shooting up towards you and Matt and reversing, and it's tight back there, so you want a small rig, and this was able to keep it small. I like the Ninja V. I think it's a great tool, and it's a very intuitive, just the way they have everything laid out. It's just very easy to access a lot of the tools
And they don't block the screen anymore.
They don't really block the
Yeah.
screen, right? So, you know, if I want to quickly put on false color, peaking, if I want to throw, like,
It's all there on the
you know,
bottom,
we,
right?
We
Yeah.
had the N-Log loaded into the monitor, and you can quickly toggle it on and off. So you can see the N-Log, you can see the LUT on and off. You got your waveform right there. Just very accessible monitor. I'm a big fan of it. It was my first time shooting N-Log. I hadn't had a chance to experiment with it yet. Don't tell anybody. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to do tests. You're supposed
Well, this was our test.
This
Bobby.
was our test. You're right.
Yeah, this was our test.
But generally, before you go out and do a shoot, you should test your LUT out. It's different across the board, different log curves for different brands. Some you can expose kind of across the board. Some you have to overexpose a little. Some, you know, it depends, and you gotta mess with that to really figure it out. Because I had messed with it, I wasn't technically on the money. You know, I was actually I was a little underexposed on where I should have been, and the waveform was actually telling me that, but what my eyes were telling me was something different. I should have listened to the waveform instead of
Your eyes.
my eyes. However, because of the flexibility that the N-Log afforded us, Doug threw it into DaVinci, and within 2 minutes,
Everything was recovered.
Everything was fine. The latitude that it gives you exceeded what I hoped, because you never know. I mean, sometimes you can't recover things, sometimes you can. It's all about the flexibility of the format you're working with.
How did you want to light this?
So the lighting setup was fairly simple. For a stationary car, you don't have to worry about like street lights going by. You know, we parked the car in a spot that was actually away from the street light, because I didn't want all that spill coming, but we used one gridded softbox to simulate a street light coming through the windshield. We had a very soft light, the ice light going across the dashboard.
Yes, that was the, yeah, I remember
Just
that,
to
Give me a
simulate
catch
a little light in the eye. And then we had a light coming through, similar gridded softbox, just coming through the back, acting as either another street light or another light source from somewhere else. That's
It was
kind of
nice.
just
gave-
rims the back
Yes.
of the headrest, the hair a little bit, just so you pop out a little more, so you're not like just lit in the front and then your head just disappears into darkness. So
I was watching the BTS footage, you know, and thinking about being on set when we were there. You know, like the last thing you're really thinking about as a director is like the kind of camera you're using.
right.
Some of the things going on that you're thinking about.
That's the last thing, yeah.
You're thinking about performance, eye line, you know, exposure, like time, you know. So like the only thing a director really wants out of a camera is that it's simple to use, it works every time, gives you clean images,
Right.
and it maybe has a nice, cool look to it. And I feel like the Nikon Z6 sort of fits that bill.
Yeah, it did for me, especially on a shoot like this, where we know we're going in, we've got a few hours to get it done. I don't really want to think about all these things hanging off a camera, and I don't want to think about like, oh, I have to dive deep into a menu to find something, to do this, do that. It's like,
No time, man.
it's very intuitive and it's not complicated. I can turn that camera on and I can work very quickly with it. So that was the biggest selling feature for me, is why I bought it.
Here is a hangry stakeout. Shot entirely on the Nikon Z6 and the Atomos Ninja V. Enjoy. Do you have to do that?
What?
Eat like that. We're on a stakeout.
I'm hungry.
You might have to jump out of this car at any second, and you're covered in cheese dust.
Oh, man.
Are you serious right now?
What? I'm thirsty.
How is it possible that I can hear you chewing liquid?
Look, I don't want to get dehydrated while we're sitting out here hours on end working off some bad intel.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Bad intel? My intel is top notch.
Uh-huh. Then how come we've been sitting here for 4 hours now?
You know what, Matt? It's called patience. You should try it sometime. Baby. Oh my god. It's going down. Come on, Matt! Come on!
Good luck.
I hope you enjoyed the film. We had a lot of fun making it. If you like this video and you want to see more camera demos and filmmaking how-tos, hit that subscribe button. This is Jake and Bob with B&H. Just keep rolling, guys.
Good luck. Okay, let's do that again. Okay. Action. Good luck.